let's go ahead and get rolling with introductions and stuff, James. And by the time we're done with that, hopefully everybody will popped in that's going to. So
Let's do it.
it's still, I see it's still climbing up, but
yeah. Okay.
Oh, do we have like a intro slide here?
We do. A few housekeeping items for everybody. So participants, you are muted. You can ask and field questions, and Kelly and I will look at those, and some we can respond to live, others will just hold off until the end, but they will get answered. And again, this is going to be recorded, so this will go out to all registered applicants. You will get this in your inbox and say, hey, download this link to watch the webinar. That's pretty much it. Let's just dive right in. Kelly, go for it, man.
All right. Yeah, so been at Clearage for about 5 years, VP of Product Management, came from the industry, spent about 10 years with the Beck Group, big design build general contractor, started up and ran the VDC team there, started up a Scan to BIM team there, was a Clearage customer, and then decided to jump over to the dark side, come here, and start making cool tools. So yeah, that's me. James, how about you?
Well, I worked for Kelly, and then I ended up taking on the VDC team, and we also had a centralized planning and scheduling team. That's really where I started out, and it was great, right? So we kind of merged all the different kind of parts, the kit of parts that make a building go together into this wonderful group of departments while we were at Beck. Yeah, and I started off in the field doing surveying and field engineering / the superintendent route a long time ago. This is why I have gray hair. Yeah, and I think that Kelly talked me into coming to Clearage, and never regret at all, because we quickly just dove into trying to solve some real problems we've seen for the field there's just been a large gap. The gap of having access to qualified resources, or how do you truly scale QA QC on a job, and use scanning in like a meaningful way for a deliverable for active projects that are getting built. It's a very hard problem to solve, and sometimes I think it really helped to kind of have those experiences, and that's what we're going to present today, is kind of all of these experiences that we've both faced from the scanning and layout and verification and registration world, to consolidate and make something simple and easy to train on. So that's it.
Yeah, and I'm like I said a few minutes ago, it's been a long time coming. I think it's exciting because at least for me, back when before TopCon picked up Clearedge, and we were talking to them during the M&A process, which is fascinating in and of itself. One of the things we were really interested in about TopCon is they kind of had this vision for hybrid instruments, and it wasn't something that we'd seen from really any of the other vendors, and we thought it was just a really fascinating kind of alternative version of reality, because at the end of the day, the big full dome 360 scanners that we've got are wonderful for what they're good at, but there's downsides to scanning everything all the time, everywhere, and doing these massive projects with hundreds of thousands of scans. And so yeah, it was a really interesting vision, and so it's kind of fun to both see that come to fruition in this particular instrument. Some of the capabilities it brings to the table. It was also the reason I started talking to James about coming on here, because it really kind of melds these two different, usually very separate processes, which have been, kind of the field engineering side of things, whether it's layout, whether it's survey, whether it's, just kind of spot checking, as building, with the whole scan to BIM thread of going out and capturing everything. And it's I don't know, it's kind of fun, because it's like, jointly, and even before that, we've been working towards kind of this webinar you know, and several others that we've got scheduled for, you know, gosh, 3 or 4 years now. So yeah, let's get rolling.
Let's do it. Yeah, so we're going to go through this workflow, and then we're going to dive into a demo. So let's just do that. So what do we have behind me? Well, I don't know, you can't see behind me. So what you see on the screen right is this instrument that is a robotic total station that has a scanner mounted to the top of it, and they are calibrated to each other. It does a 360 dome scan, and we have kind of consolidated everything into one, everything being kind of registration and getting on to control and being able to shoot in new points into one tab and into one application that is just super easy to use. So we've been guided. We created this customer council and have been guided by kind of these experts and even people who've never really touched scanning or even surveying to help guide the user interface and user experience to ensure that it is easy to remember how to get through a workflow. Many times, you know, things can feel fragmented in the workflow and like, what does this button mean and what do you do and how do I go to where the next thing is to do my job? So we really focused a lot on removing that, which was not an easy problem to solve, but we definitely did solve that. But I think the most meaningful thing, right, as well, so when projects are doing scanning, they're doing it for really one of two reasons. They are scanning to ensure like, how is this building built, and let's drop it into a model so that the design team can model things correctly before we start construction documents, right? The other thing that is definitely been growing and has is very meaningful has been quality assurance. Like, are things getting installed correctly? The problem in the past has been, and even currently, is it's just such a long workflow, and you have to have all these. Sometimes you have to have like a total station to get on control, and then you have to have your scanner, then you got to carry all this stuff, and it's all expensive, and then you've got multiple softwares, and it's like, imagine trying to hire all these different people to be experts, and if you don't, then you have to do really good training and hope those people will do their job well. And if too many things have to be true, it's very hard to scale a good workflow that has a lot of value to a company, right? Because if you can check stuff and do it quickly and it's simple, like, you can imagine the profit erosion that goes away on your job. You know, you get what you inspect, not what you expect. It's a very common term and it's true. But it also has to be done quickly, right? So it's not enough to be simple, it has to be fast. So we have really focused on that to be able to do full registration. You can do real-time registration in the field, full bundle adjust on your tablet, and in 15-20 minutes you're completely done. And then you can run on the tablet with Verity or Rhythm, and you'll have your results somewhere in between from the point you started scanning to the end, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. It just depends on how many scans you've done, right? So it's kind of contingent. Like, you can get results in 20 minutes if you're doing like 3 scans and you're running through Verity or Rhythm, but if you're doing like 15 or 20 scans, it's an hour because it takes time to set up, right? So, we also wanted to focus not just on verification, automated verification with Verity, which is awesome. But we also want to empower users to import their model and validate just visually, is something right or wrong, right? And then make notes inside of the application, and then you can publish those to Collage Web, which is like a web-based platform that consumes the scan data, and you can show the model geometry and do all sorts of cool stuff. But I think, one of the things in my past life, right, we bought some of like effectively the best scanners on the market that are absolutely amazing. I really can't, we're not here to talk poorly about any of those things, because they are very good at what they're good at, which Kelly mentioned. But job sites are very dynamic, and if too many things have to be true, like you have to use this kind of prism, or it doesn't do a reflectorless shot to get on control, or the prisms have, if you are going to get onto control, to make sure because you never want to align your scan data manually. unless it's like an interiors job and it's all relative to the walls around it. But if you're building a new building, it's very dangerous to just align scans manually. So you want to get onto a coordinate system, but those coordinate points can be like 2, 3, 4, or 500 feet away. And in order to get on control, what are you going to do? Are you going to bring a total station with you and then bring that control closer to the building so the scanner can pick up like a sphere or a prism? No, I mean, you can do that, but it's going to take you too long. And you just, again, we wanted to, look at that. So, being that the GTL is a total station, it uses the power of that to be able to get on to control a very long distance, and then you can scan. Or you can scan first, do a few scans, and by the way, the scanner, the GTL does not have to be level while you're scanning. It does have to be level when you get on control. And then all of the scans will automatically orient to what the level is. And the thing is, you can get on control from long distance, and then you're registering in minutes, and you're registering in the field right then, not, all right, I hope I got enough scans, I hope I have the right amount of coverage. Then you get to the office and realize you don't. Someone has to remobilize back to the job site, make sure that if you even have the time, which is hard to do. And then so we solved that problem of registering in minutes, not hours, because it's happening in real time. And then the last portion, right, is automated QA QC, because Verity and Rhythm are both on the tablet, which is great. I think the other thing that's very important that we really focused on is time and speed, right? So we sometimes with different software, they'll say like the scan resolution is just low, medium, high, or it'll just be the resolution, which means nothing depending on the person. So we wanted to speak to both types of audiences, which is our application does both as well. So it has a nice icon, but it also will say what that icon means, because it removes the guessing game. But also here, it's like, what are these? What does fine mean? That means it's scanning at 11 millimeters and at 10 meters away, right? Which is a standard resolution setting for most scanners. And you can see the times on the right. You can do low res, which is still plenty for Verity. Verity doesn't need a lot of data. Or if you're just doing visual verification, if you're wanting to then model, you would probably start off with fine. But even fine with no images is 1 minute and 23 seconds. With images, it's an extra minute. So it's still fast. Super high res is 5 minutes. I think that's one of those things where we were out on this data center, we didn't even need it. But if you needed to, if there was something that's super, super, super small that you were trying to capture, maybe you would use that if it was, 100 feet away or 150 feet away, I don't know. But anyways, it's still a fast scanner. So here is an example. We were out on this other data center with one of our advisory council members who's really helped guide the project. And these are tilt wall panels, right? So it's like, are these, before the concrete gets poured, it's like, are the forms in the right place? Are the weld plates in the right place? Is the conduit that's inside of this and the junction boxes that are going inside of this in the right place? And you can just import the model, and what they did is they got under control, and the scan data drops right over the model, and then you can just do a visual verification and say, yes, this has been installed right. If you want to do a deeper investigation, or you just don't even want to do a visual verification, you can just run it through Verity. I think the thing that we realized, though, was really, again, it was time, is they were using a really amazing scanner, but there's just there were all of these different steps that were required to get to an end result. I think a big part of the value of Collage Site paired with the GTL is mainly time. It's just that you can get on control, scan, do full bundle adjust, and you're done. And then if you want to do, like, you want to import into Revit and create a lift drawing. So meaning you're going to do these additional measurements and overlay it over a plan, a floor plan, and you can do that, but you're not spending 3 to 4 hours doing registration. You can just get back to the office and just do that. So we're trying to remove a lot of that workflow. And if you're not having to do like a custom PDF drawing, and you can just run it through Verity, publish the issues to Procore or BIM 360, or just print a PDF and send it to everyone, right? Totally up to you. And again, this is about what we're providing is time and giving you the amount of data that's enough for you to do your job well and protects the project, and kind of removes too many things from having to be true, right? Because if you look here, there's like they had to use 2 separate registration softwares, not because they're doing one in registration, they had different capabilities, right? And that's 3 hours versus 40 minutes, 10 steps versus 6 steps in an hour. So there's quite a significant difference in time. Another example of visual verification. So yeah, so this is Collage Site. This is a very large electrical contractor, and it's like, hey, it looks like the steel is installed wrong. My conduit is going through this joist. Is that true? Well, the really cool thing is when we first we localized the GTL, and the survey control was actually a little bit off. They hadn't transferred control into the building from outside correctly, but then it's all so kind of an issue. But then again, the building currently was getting built relative to the control inside the building, so we just used that. So it was nice. We found some survey errors out of the gate, even before we started scanning, which they sent out. But then at the same time, we could see, hey, there's this conduit that looks like it's an issue, and the answer is yes, it is. So then they ran it through Verity and found all sorts of other issues with like C channels. So you can see on the top left, I-beams, right? That they're just installed wrong, and they were off by like 6 inches in quite a few spots. You can see this report. It presents this report on the bottom. This is the report for that job. Everything in red that says not found, that's because we ran the entire project through Verity, but we'd only scanned like, I don't know, a 1/16 of the job, not even. So there's a lot of things it's not going to find. So just be aware when you're running through Verity, like that's what this pie chart means. Like, hey, is there enough data? Some of the data was blocked, or there was too much shadow. The yellow is out of tolerance, etc. And that's it. So basically, it's if you want, get on control. If not, you can just use this as a scanner. And I think what we're going to do here is let me quickly just get into the actual software itself. I'm going to go ahead and let me see if I can share. Show my screen. All right, this is the first time we're going to try this out. Okay. I gotta Bear with me for one moment. Come on. Sorry, guys. The go to webinars minimize thing for me. You guys can't see this, but I can. The minimize button is not working. Okay. So this is Collage Site. It is touch enabled and is mouse enabled. So depending on if you're back at your office or you're using it out in the field, you can do both. So I'm currently, just using 2 fingers to zoom in, zoom out, and you can see, right, that all of these links are green. And what I wanted to show you, there we go, sorry, go to webinars, not being super friendly, accept and apply. So this is like this is a large data center project. And you can see that this is just at standard resolution, and the speed is really fast. So if I turn around here, you can see that, yeah, I mean, we're capturing lots and lots and lots of data. And again, the different views, right, is I can get into a 3D view, I can get into a plan view. You can see that there's all of these control points. And you can also see at the top, we're connected. The scanner itself is level. You have the option to turn tilt off. And if you do that, that means that you can scan without the scanner itself being level. So depending on who the user is, you may want them to have all scans level for some reason. You just don't tell them, just never turn that off, but you can totally scan without it being level, and it will still register the scans to each other. And the really cool thing is leveled scans take priority over unleveled scans. So if you have one scan that's leveled, the next scan, even if it's out of level, will orient itself to the leveled scan. So when you import into Revit, you don't have to worry about, many of you I'm sure have experienced this, where when you're doing registration, then you have to like determine what is level, what is not level, and get rid of that. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to like go and do a live demo and see what happens. Got like so much open right now, but we're going to try it out.
Brave man.
Right? It's not as fun unless you can try a live demo, right? Like,
well, and to clear, I just wanted to clarify on what you were saying before. It's like, yeah, because this is a survey instrument, you know, it's got a total station, you know, grade inclinometer in it, basically. So it's got, you know, full dual axis compensation, yada yada yada, just like a super high end P series scanner from Leica or you know, any total station. And so that means if you are running with tilt on, you're going to get really nice, really level data out of the scanner, but you don't have to do every station that way. You can do one station that way and then crank out 10 stations with that turned off. And that one station is going to be, you know, the one that gets tied back to. So, but yeah, definitely,
yeah. So a few things about the software, right? So yes, it is a total station. You can just do layout with it. One thing to note about that, which is really nice, is then your instrument is not just sitting in a job site trailer collecting dust. It can always be used. So you can, and it also can empower people who are doing layout. Then they can just, if they're on control, they can just do a scan or 3 scans, because it also supports GPS. So you can do what you would normally do on a job site and then capture scan data when you need to. And it's fast, like the scanner itself is fast, right? So and the thing to note about that, right, is like on estimates, scanners many times get written out of the estimate by owners. Like they're like, I'm not paying for that. Like we've been building buildings for a long time. If you are the general contractor or subcontractor, you're just going to figure out how to pay for it. Well, you can figure out how to pay for it yourself, but total stations don't get removed. So it's just another thing to think about. Like it's an easier thing to get paid for on a job when you're defending that, right? Because you have to use it to build the building. Okay, so in the software, you can see there's import, which is it's like, what do? You're importing stuff, right? And your options are, I'm importing additional scans from a different job. References are like models, the file, the CSV file that's coming out of whatever layout software you're using. We support both ENZ, NEZ, and then /XYZ formats, and it'll just natively bring them in their native export, which is great. And then there are these other options, right? There's add new station. So if we're going to create a new station and then scan, there's that. There's localize. So that's, do I want to localize my instrument? And then my options are cloud to cloud. I haven't set up a station yet, so all of this is grayed out. But there's occupation backsite, which is, you know, if you can't do resection, and many times jobs cannot be just do resection, because if you don't have line of sight of 2 points that are control points, you're hosed. But if you can set up on so maybe you have to set up on a known point in backsite and look at this other known point. For those who do surveying, you'll know this. You need both. And then, yeah, so get out here, done. And then there's link. You click link, what that is showing is it just shows all the links that are live in the view. There's already a link between two here, and we can see that the link is green. There is a registration report as well. But what we wanted to do is just use simple colors like red, yellow, green. Is the link good, bad, or so-so? And that way you don't have to look at the registration report, because sometimes those reports mean nothing to someone who's not an expert scanner. If they're just told, hey, just scan, and as long as it's green, you're good. That's all you need to know, right? Like preserve people's bandwidths on jobs. Don't make them have to know so much. All right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is add a new station. It automatically will name the next station, of course. And then we are going to scan. So it's going to, right now it's importing this into the engine that you see in front of you, the 3D rendering engine.
And making the files on the scanner and
Right.
doing all the stuffs.
Right. But hey, better the double than no. So right now it has this station that it doesn't actually know where it is in the world. So this doesn't have, but it doesn't need to. We spent years, or we, in partnership with Topcon, we have these people that help build Edgewise and have helped build Verity to use their minds to make this amazing registration software. So that, you'll see in a second. So let's go ahead and click scan. Your options are full dome or target. We're going to stick with full dome. Your options here are, you can see that your drop down is, hey, I'm going to fine. Hey, I'm going to super fine. I want to choose images, on or off. And then sparse scan mode. What that means is that, like, our registration software, much like most registration software, doesn't need all of the data to register two point clouds to each other. It just needs enough, right? So we send over the right amount of data to the tablet, because when you're sending data over Wi-Fi, if you were to send a full resolution scan, that would take a long time, and you don't need to. So you can preserve that data and then later upgrade the scans. You can take, there's an SD card, you plug the SD card into the tablet and it will automatically push all of the data into that scan station, but you don't need that for registration. And then you can choose imaging. Do I want imaging on or off? We're gonna just do we'll do a normal scan, standard scan. And then we're just gonna let it do its thing. And this is gonna be the workflow that you would experience with Collage Site and the GTL. It also has a camera on it. So obviously, as you saw before, that camera is kind of on the top left corner of the GTL. Yeah, so we're just gonna let it do its thing.
And James, I don't know if you wanted to share your webcam real quick so people can actually see.
Oh, sure.
We have the technology.
We do have the technology. Well, let's get through this first. Yeah, I'll share my webcam right after, because it's almost done.
Yeah.
So the nice thing, right, is that once it's done scanning, it's then going to say, hey, do you want to, well, we'll get to this in a second. Do I want to keep in link? Do I want to just keep, or do I want to discard, right? So if there's a Mack truck that pulls in front of you, you want to discard because maybe it blocked your entire field of view. You may only want to click keep, because if your next scan is like 300 feet away, there's no way those two scans are going to link to each other. And you don't want it to try and do that. or there's just keep and link, which we're going to do. And so what it's going to do now is it's going to link to the previous scan. And while this is all happening, you know, we can set the scanner up, which I will do in a second. So you can set the scanner up and in its next location while registration is happening. And it still doesn't take a long time to do full registration.
Yeah, I was actually out the other morning testing this, and between the morning and the afternoon, I think I knocked out about 72 scans actually, which is not a bad day scanning.
No. No.
But for me, the thing that I love doing with this, it's what you mentioned earlier. It's like the workflow I love with this is just I will go set up on control because I've got a couple control points that I use for testing, and so I'll go tie into my prisms. One of them is actually just a Sharpie mark drawn on a steel frame that's exposed on my house, so I could sight anything, do a reflectorless shot, whatever. But I'll tie into control, and then, like you said, I'll turn off the tilt. I'll go knock out 3 or 4 scans, and then I'll kind of do another setup, turn tilt on, tie into control, then do another 3 or 4 or 5 scans with tilt off, and then turn it on, do another tie into control. And it's just great because it kind of, as you go, it just keeps you checked back in, and then you run it through bundle adjust, and it's just poof, magic, everything's there. It's really slick. Really slick.
Yeah. And as you can see right now, so what it's done, it imported the scan data first, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's not aligned. But then just wait. Let's see what happens.
Knock on wood, right? When do automated algorithms fail? When you're doing a live demo.
Boom.
Hey, it worked.
Because it's great. We had to, trust me, there's been the amount of testing we've had to do the last 6 months has been nuts. So here you go. You've got a, you can see on the right, we have overlap, kind of in the middle, on the far right, overlap and strength and distance. So this is a great link, of course, and then you're done, right? And then while that's happening, you're going and you're setting up your next setup. If you want to level the instrument, great. If not, you don't have to. And that's really it. And I think the other thing to mention, right, is that on top of that, the tablet also has Verity on it. So this is that same data center job we saw just before, and the tablet that is spec'd is fast enough and super, also it's like super lightweight. You'll see it here in a second. And we're just gonna click, analyze, and choose what we're gonna analyze. And this is all touch. I just did that with my finger. And it's gonna say, hey, is this thing installed correctly or not? Now, we ran the entire project, and it took, which was like 9,000 elements, and it took almost 30 minutes. So depending on what you are analyzing, it can take a lot longer if you're trying to analyze literally everything on your job. But if you're just trying to analyze like 20 items, it's really fast. So let's let it run, see what happens. And then after this, I will share my webcam, and we can answer a lot more questions if there are any questions. Okay, it said, hey, there were 4 items that were chosen, and there were 3 that are out of tolerance, 1 that wasn't found. So either there wasn't enough data or it's not installed itself, right? And then if we look at those items, right, so we can say, what are we talking about? So here was one item, right? It's out of tolerance. Who's reviewed it? How much was it out of tolerance? a decent amount. Next option, how much out of tolerance? Let's see these first ones.
Almost 3/4 of an inch vertically.
Right, see? And you can dive in and really see what the issues are. These are pretty good. There are areas though, like, notice, like, SpaghettiOs, I don't know how well you can see this, but there is some things that were of concern. And it's also nice because, right, if it doesn't find it, it's like, hey, there's more to be built, right? So we can see the scan data dropped right into Navis. And then we're just looking at that data over here. And again, this is all running on the tablet. So that is it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
The same thing, of course, is true with rhythm, right? So if you're trying to do floor flatness or something else, same thing holds true. You can pull the point cloud in and run it for floor flatness. Look for, heat maps, contours, grid of points, or even FFFL analysis. Doesn't matter. All of it done right in the field. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we sharing webcams now?
Are we? We should be. Can you all see this?
All righty. I can see you, James.
Perfect. Great. So behind me, right, is that GTL, and I think some nice things about it are, we're also bringing these, we're kind of speccing it with both a standard tripod that you would use to push into the dirt, and also a carbon fiber tripod that's super easy to move around. And again, like, you would just set this up, obviously set it right in the middle of the doorway when you're doing scanning, so you get the right amount of coverage. Which are my dogs. And then you can see behind me, right, is that now it's hard to see, but this shows that the scanner is now out of level. And if we were to set this thing up.
Well, we got a couple questions. If you want to take a couple questions real quick.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So first one is from James Kennelly. What are the specifications on the scanner? Point spacing, accuracy, etc. Not apparently easy to find on the TopCon website. So point spacing, James was showing those earlier. It will run at 5.5 millimeters at 10 meters, 11 millimeters at 10 meters, and 22 mils at 10 meters. So it's, I don't know why it's like a slightly smaller spacing than most, most scanners are like 25, 12, and 6 or whatever. But for whatever reason, that's just what made sense given the hardware. Point accuracy, it's, gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's like plus or minus 3 mils or something, but as you know, that's dependent upon range and albedo and everything else, and it's almost incomprehensible. But just to kind of give you a sense of the quality, this is, not going to be, this is not like a P series Leica scanner or a Regal or something like that. This is going to be more kind of just data quality standpoint. You're talking about something kind of range of typical Faro scanner, and certainly better than what you're going to see out of the inexpensive low-end scanners that are out there on the market, just in terms of the fidelity of the data. James can zoom in on some data on the screen or something later, show you. There's also we can get you guys data samples if you want to see it, but it's pretty nice data at the end of the day. So we're happy with it.
Yeah.
What kind of tablet is it from Thad? James,
It's a Dell tablet. So it's a Dell 7220 tough tablet that we've tested in ice cold conditions and super hot conditions while running heavy processing, and it's been awesome. So yeah, and again, the nice thing with that as well is that when you think about support, Dell is everywhere. They're fairly it's ubiquitous, enterprise that people use to buy computers. So it's easy to support, easy for us to support, easy for you to support. And I think when it comes to quality, it's like the quality is great. So I think it's like the question of, having a lot of like so much resolution is trying to make up for maybe there's a lot of noise, or we're trying to get a clean data set, right? Well, so our software engineers worked really hard in partnership with Top to make sure that the smoothing and cleaning algorithms capture to ensure that like walls and edges are just super crisp. So it's very easy to model from, because that's a pain for design. Because remember, Kelly and I came from a large commercial design build firm. So it matters a lot that the data is clean and easy to visually understand when you're modeling. And then, but I think the question is, there's always been this ask, like it has to be super high res. It kind of depends though on what you're doing. So I think, if you are doing QA/QC, or you're capturing a data center or a healthcare facility, or you're fine. If you're trying to do historic preservation and capturing like little joints and cracks, you'd probably scan on high res here, which would be 5.5, but from a time standpoint, you probably would use a P series, right? That's what it's used for. So I think, you wouldn't.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That's like, use the best tool for the job, right? So
use the best tool for the job.
Yeah. This is not the world's best 360 dome laser scanner for high productivity work. Right now, that's I don't mind naming it. Right now, that's an RTC 360. If you need to crank out 150 scans in a day, go buy an RTC 360, right?
Yeah.
Or look at some mobile solutions like NavViz if you really need productivity, right? But what's unique about this, and I think what you'll know if it's valuable to you or not, probably, but what's so unique about this solution is that it is just so bleeping easy to get on control, because it's a total station. So you can shoot prisms, you can shoot retroreflective targets, you can shoot Sharpie marks on a wall that are benchmarks or control points. You can randomly pick something in the wild and just assume, and you just turn it into a control point for you. Like when we were at a Geo Week, there were column labels, and we were able to use the bottom left-hand corner of the numbers on the column labels as a control point. I mean, there's just it
but
makes it.
I think I just want like you're getting all of the web joists too. I mean, you're getting data you need. So I think there's always been this. We've been caught up in resolution. And it like Kelly said, it does matter what you're trying to achieve. But if you are trying to model from this, totally fine. If you are trying to do quality assurance and make a lift drawing or do an inspection with Verity or Rhythm, it's way more than enough. These this is a recap because it really shows it well. Like it's hard to see here because but it's very dense. And this is just normal resolution. So that's 11 millimeter scan.
Yeah.
Which is a minute and 26 seconds.
Yeah, minute 26 seconds. It's just, I don't know. Like to me, this is just such a multifunctional instrument, because you can do, and that's what's so neat about it. It's perfect for field. It's perfect for you guys out on a job site, because whether they need to do layout, whether they need to do, stakeout, whatever it is they need to do, or including laser scanning, they just have one instrument, they go set it up, they know how to get it on control, they know, control on the job, they can do scans, they can take measurements, they can do layout, they can do whatever it is they need to do. They do it. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy.
And
Yeah.
I think the other thing, right, is that people out in the field who are doing QA QC, like they don't have time to set paper targets all over the place if you're trying to use that for registration. So the nice thing, right, is if you can get on a coordinate system, which jobs have, you can just get one scan on control and then just go cloud to cloud from there, and then maybe do another scan on control if you need to tighten up the registration. So you thinking about,
Yeah.
and you can, again, you don't have to use a 360 prism. You can just do a reflectorless shot too. So if you do have a target and somebody knows what that point is, you can shoot that in right there. So if you've got two targets that you put up that were paper targets and some person shot those points in, you could then use those as control. You can actually create your control yourself on the inside of Collage Site as well. So if there are no points, you can just start from scratch and create a fake control network. And then that time spent for setting up targets and blah, 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 it kind of remove a lot of that. Other questions?
Yeah. So we've got a couple about Verity. So I'll combine these into one. So is the BIM and the point cloud automatically registered together, and how are the objects matched and recognized during the analysis? So this is why having an instrument that's so easy to get all in control is important. Any tools that automatically match the model to the point cloud can only give you relative accuracy, because of course they're picking something to do that automatic registration. But if, in this case of the jobs James mentioned, there was a control bust. If you were to automatically register what was supposed to get built to the point cloud, you would actually not see the actual errors of what was built in the field, because everything was built slightly off in the field, right? So this is the danger of relying on automated cloud to model registration as a basis for QA/QC. So by having a scanner that can shoot any control point on a job site using any control mechanism that's on a job site, you can actually tie the scans to the coordinate system that's being used, to the coordinate system for the model, et cetera. And at that point, you're getting absolute errors as opposed to just something relative. So, but it just makes it just that easy to get it in. You don't have to go back to the office, pull in a control point file, tie it to the spheres that you set up on targets, do that as a post-processing step, re-export the point cloud on the new control mechanism, and then pull it in, right? It's just all done in the field. And in terms of the actual analysis, we're doing a fit between the model and the point cloud once they're on the same coordinate system. And basically we're running multiple different algorithms behind the scenes to figure out where that pipe actually is installed. And then we report the differences between basically the fitted geometry that we found and the original geometry that came from the model. There's some Verity webinars you can look at where we go into depth on this. We're also always happy to get you set up with a demo if it's of interest. So by all means, Martin, let us know if you want that.
And Martin, really quickly to that, if it is installed and it's too late, Verity, it will automatically move the geometry to where it's actually installed inside of Navis. So then you can work from your coordination model could be working from what's truly installed. So when you're doing additional coordination and you're running these clash detection sessions, it's actually what's there, which is a lot more valuable than working from a design model that may or may not be right.
Yeah. So. It looks like Ann Wen asked, how heavy is the model and point cloud you load in Navisworks and Verity? Is the tablet okay to handle it? Yeah, so I mean, James was actually probably against the product manager's advice. James was running Recap, Collage Site, Navisworks, and Verity all on the tablet, all at the same time, all while doing the live demo. And
like I'm in Recap right now. It's a lot to process.
Go to meeting while doing the screen share. So, Navisworks is actually surprisingly resource efficient. Verity is very resource efficient. So it actually works pretty robustly. I mean, you don't want to load a 1 million square foot facility with 100,000 scans. You're not going to do that on tablet. But if you think of this workflow as being focused at what's being done in the field that day, you're not working on 1 million square feet at the same time. You're working on one area. And so, if you're working on something with, 15, 20, 30 scans in one area, you're doing that analysis, you're checking quality, that's really what this solution is designed to do. And it works fantastic. These tablets aren't, crazy spec'd, 16 gigs of RAM. It's, it's Core i5 or i7 processor. We recommend i7, but yeah. Let's see, Caleb asked, during registration, can you specify whether to lock a scan origin as opposed to letting the scan be translated during registration? Caleb, we don't have like a pick a random scan and make that locked down. But if you localize one of the scans and basically put it on control, that scan is not going to move as a result of a bunch of other things in general. Obviously all software has bugs, and as James can speak from experience, we found a bug the other day where that statement was not entirely true, but it's a very unusual scenario in which it happens, and we'll have that fixed in a week or two. But in general, if you've got a station that's on control, and in a week or two, I'll say in all cases, it's not going to get moved. And so we respect that survey control. We do have a full hybrid bundle adjust so that we will balance the error out between all the links and the survey control. But survey control is always there's the button. Survey control is always treated as kind of basically as the root node. So it's the survey control that's locked and doesn't move.
Thou shalt not move unless you as a user decide you want to break it.
Well, actually, I will say this, James, there's no way to move the survey control at all. But the survey control is locked down and won't move. So anything that's tied to the survey control will itself be relatively static, right? Again, when you run bundle adjust, if there's small errors, we distribute it across C2C links and survey control, which is what should be done. But now we're talking about, it moving fractions of a millimeter, right? Yeah, if you have no survey control and you're just doing some scans, maybe that's something we should look at adding, actually, is just letting the user say this scan shall not move. So yeah, it's a good thought. Let's see, the range of the scanner. Scanner range. So scanner range on this is 70 meters. So Ann asked that. So distance range is and then
big but with getting on control. The scanner range, like capturing data of the scanner, is 70 meters, but you can get on control from 100. Well, so in feet, it's a little over 150 meters, but we've been testing it, and right now we've been able to get on control without the GPS unit from around 440 feet away.
Yeah, because the total station has a much longer range than the scanner.
Exactly.
So you use the station which
optics and EDM to take the actual shot to get on control, but then after that you scan at 70 meter range.
Yeah. And then again, accuracy. So this is I mentioned this earlier with the spec sheet. Part of the challenge we have is spec sheets aren't actually apples to apples comparisons. Different companies do different specs, and so Topcon publishes something they call point accuracy with their scanners, which basically takes all of the various sources of error and rolls it up into one metric. No other company does that. I personally think that's actually a better metric, because others will give you ranging error separately from rotational error, separately from other stuff, and you kind of have to figure out what that actually means in terms of how precise a point will be. So I think the total kind of conglomerate error that Topcon publishes is about plus or minus 3 millimeters, but there's not really any way to correlate that to any other spec sheet on the market. So like I said, the question, I like to send data samples because the easiest thing for us to do is send you a data sample straight out of the scanner and let you kind of play around with it and look at it and see if you're happy with the data. And so that's what I'd recommend you do, is just reach out, let us send you a data sample from one of these. I mean, maybe James will send you his home office that just
yeah, and you'll even see, like, you can look at it, the noise when you look at it, but if you're opening it up in Recap or whatever you're in, it's really small. Or plus 3 millimeters is right.
Yeah, so Collage Site will, which is the application that does all the registering and processing. So this is from Stephanie. Collage Site will export to E57. It'll also export to PTS and LAS. So, but E57 is what most people are using. Let's see, Jonathan's asking for ballpark price, and I'm a product guy, so I don't know that.
I know. So ballpark price. So here's what's also awesome. It's $1,800 for the software. It's like the cheapest. It's so cheap relative to what's out on the market, right? And the paired with the GTL, we're looking at around 65, all in, including the tablet, CS, Collage Site, and the accessories. So which is a great deal. And again, the software, it's one of those things as well that the software also doesn't creep in price. Like that's what it is. We offer both direct purchase, or you can do a lease option. Some people like leasing over 2, 3, or 4 or 5 year period. Others just like direct.
Yeah. Had a great question. And actually I should clarify one thing. Verity is the software that does the comparison between a model and a point cloud. The software that we're mostly showing here and that James is talking about is called Collage Site. And so Collage Site is what does the instrument control and registration. So FYI, but Collage Site, will it be compatible with other scanner models such as the Trimble X7? So I would love for you to call your Trimble rep and tell them that you would like for us to be able to control their scanners with our software. We would be totally on board with doing that. But I think your odds of success on that are about probably 1 in a billion. But go for it. We built it to be able to kind of connect to a whole bunch of different types of instruments, and it's just a REST API, so it's not, it probably wouldn't be that hard to do. But I think there are probably business people that would and Leica that would, and Faro that would not want us to do that. So I doubt that will ever happen. James Kennelly asked resection. Yes, it can now do occupation backside. It can do resection. It can do cloud to cloud. All as mechanisms for localization. And I do want to point out that last bit, James, is you could actually cloud to cloud some stations together. And then use that as a mechanism for doing some other stuff back on control. So think about that. Let that spool over in your brain there, James. Let's see. Adam Box, can you see a model with the scan and Collage Site? Yes, that's James had showed that on his screen earlier. Faith, actually both of his examples in the presentation had the project model loaded in context. So as you're scanning, and in fact, even before you start scanning, you can load the project in and use that as a basis. So going back to one of the earlier questions about can you lock a station and not have it move? Well, we don't have that. You can manually manipulate stations, of course. So if you have a model, but you don't have a control network, or anything like that, and you want to kind of visually align the scans to the model, you can bring a model in, go out, do a scan, and then manually align the scan to the model, and then register the rest of your scans back to that scan. And it's, that's basically you can kind of get those two things modeled or aligned and use that model as a basis for scanning in the field or visual QA/QC. Goodness. Oh, yes, and Ray Kerwin points out that the GT EDM range is actually 1,000 meters to an ATP1 360-degree prism. Reflectorless, it can measure 1,000 meters, but smaller prisms like the ATP2, you're not going to have quite that much range, but there's a whole set of specs on the GT range for getting onto control. But you're not going to be. It has the range. We need to make a meme with it has the range.
Yeah, that doesn't matter on bigger jobs. Just by the way, like it's such a it can be such a big problem. You know, again, too many things have to be true. Like, how do you just trying to get out there and do your job and get back in? To the job site
And
for
then,
everyone. So,
and when also asked, can it publish raw data, or can we publish data to Collage Web and do registration online there? And so the answer is yes. So there's actually an integration with Collage Web. So in Collage Site, you can do registration in the field, get stuff on control, do whatever you want, and then you can publish to Collage Web, and then you can do additional registration in the office if you want. You can also do all the registration in the field and then just publish to Collage Web for sharing and viewing. So there's lots of things we can do there with Magnet Collage Web. And Stephanie will drop a web link into the response here in just a second for Collage Site. Yeah.
anything else?
I think we got all the, how many scans can we process with the tablet in the field? Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, I'd say what you can do in a day, you can pretty much do. Again, this is not a scanner that you generally go out and capture, you know, 100 scans with in a day as a productivity tool. This is something you're typically trying to get in-field results with. And so it's been working rock solid for us for what it was designed to do. All right. Well, I think we're at time, James.
Are we at time? All right.
We're past time. 4 minutes.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Please reach out to us, and we will get back to you if you have any questions. You know, I'm sure Paolo will field those to us as well. So that's it. I've got nothing else. Everyone have a wonderful day. Enjoy your week. Yeah. And looking forward to the warm weather coming at some point. So.
Amen.
Right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.